minutes. 2 minutes. Thank you.
All right, I don't know if the 2 minutes is up yet or not, but my wife suggested somebody should introduce this shebang today, so I guess that's me, because I always follow my wife's advice. It's kept me out of trouble for 30 plus years now, so. And I know that is not an easy gig, so thank you, Wendy. So, by now I hope we've all at least met Seth and Sarah Krueger, but this is our opportunity to ask them questions, like potentially how Seth is doing on his 12-step program for the Lions. I'm also in that 12-step program, by the way. So without further ado, Pastor and Sarah.
Hello.
So I think the plan is we're going to keep this like very, very casual, very open forum. So my request would be, if you've got a question that you want to ask, let's keep it orderly. You know, raise your hand, and then we'll call on you. And if you'd stand up and state your name, that way it'll help us learn names too, which is great. But state your name and then ask your question as loudly as you're able, and then we'll decide whether or not we want to answer it.
Maybe we'll give a very brief overview of our beginnings, though, because I know those will be questions.
That's always a good question.
Yeah. So, I am Sarah Krueger. I was born Sarah Callback, though. My family lived all over the United States most of my life. I never lived, until I got to high school, I never lived anywhere more than 3 years. So I was born in Colorado, and my grandparents still live in Colorado Springs. I lived with them for 6 months, and then we moved to Minnesota, and I lived there for 3 years. We lived right outside of the cities in 2 different places in Minnesota, and those 3, oh, maybe it was more than 3, I don't know, 5 years maybe.
You lose count after.
I lose count. And then when I was in first grade, we moved to Louisiana, and we lived right outside of New Orleans. And that was also the longest commute I had for church. We had to drive an hour to go into the city to get to our Only Wells church in the area. So, very blessed that I get to drive 10 minutes and get to church here. And then after that, we moved to California. We lived right outside of LA. Actually, we lived in Anaheim. We had passes to Disneyland. It was great. Only for 6 months, though. And then we moved down to San Diego for 3 years, and then we moved out to Texas, and I made my dad promise he would not accept a promotion, because we moved every time, because he was promoted every time in the Hilton hotels. He's a very good Hilton finance manager. So when we got to Texas, though, he promised he wouldn't move until I graduated high school, and then they actually lived there for 9 years, and now they are currently, my family, my mom, my dad, and then my little brother are living out in Chicago. I do have a sister who is still living in Texas. She lives down by Houston. She is 3 years younger than me. My brother, when I say little brother, I mean little brother. He's in 6th grade. So that's my family. We did have one dog in that whole transit. He moved with us every time. He made it from Minnesota all the way to Texas. All right, that's me.
I never got to meet him, though, which is the shame of my life. Yeah, so you know how they say opposites attract, I guess. I'm exactly the opposite of her story. I never moved at all. In fact, I had never actually done a proper life move before I met her, so I blame her for the fact that I've ever had to pack anything in a box. I actually was born in Illinois, just north of Chicago, so we're kind of coming full circle. Was born in Buffalo Grove, but I don't remember it at all because we moved just before I turned 2. My parents moved to Lake Orion, Michigan immediately after that, and that's all I remember. I lived in the same town, the same house, went to the same school my whole life. It was wild. Went to Divine Grace Lutheran there, and then from there to Martin Luther College. I skipped high school, didn't you know? Went to Michigan Lutheran Seminary and then on to MLC. So I spent so much of my life in Michigan. That's almost all I knew for a very long time. I'm going to do the hand thing. I hope that's okay. So I grew up in the Lower Peninsula, and you know there's 2, right? So you got the Upper Peninsula, and Yoopers live up there, and you got the Lower Peninsula, which means I'm a troll because I live underneath the bridge. Mackinac Bridge connects the 2. Yeah, we're trolls. In case you didn't know that, now you know. So I'm a troll, and I grew up just a little bit northwest of Detroit. So down this way, in this part of the hand. And loved it very well. I got to know Michigan extremely well. We traveled all over the state, doing lots of camping. My family loved to camp, so we went to state parks all over the state. Got to see most of them actually, and got to know it very well. Which still kind of sets me apart from my wife. She didn't get to know any one place especially well, but all I knew was Michigan. That changed pretty fast, though, because we both ended up at MLC at the same time together. That would have been just after 2012 is when we both graduated. Oh, there you go. There's a fun fact that you might not know. Sarah and I are almost exactly the same age. In fact, she is 2 days older than me. Yeah, I married an older woman. Make of that what you will. But yeah, November 22nd, great date. November 24th. 1993. How cool is that? We didn't plan that at all. It just happened that way. Amazing. Just incredible. Yeah. So you can imagine how easy that makes birthdays for everyone. Although
It's
we've
just
tried
like 3 days long.
Yeah, right. We opted for the 3-day long celebration instead of just meeting in the middle because then there's fewer presents for either of us. Totally practical. Yeah. Wow. That's sort of like the flyover view of our lives up to this point. Anything you want to know about young Sarah or young Seth?
Or old Sarah and old Seth.
You can ask about. You can skip ahead to older us too. Older. Do we count as old yet?
Sarah, you're doing the soccer program here at Mount Olive. Do you have athletic ability in coaching and stuff?
I feel like those are 2 different things.
So, I have played every sport because I went to tiny Wells schools out in California, Texas. Everyone played everything. So I played soccer. I didn't do flag football, but I did soccer, I did basketball, I did softball, I did track, I did cheerleading. I've done everything. And then in high school, I ran cross country. So I'm not great, but I can do it all. I've played volleyball and basketball. I can do it all. I'm not the best athlete. I have coached basketball and volleyball. Also, can do it. Not the best. It was my first year for both of them. I've only done them 1 year each, so it will take me a couple more years probably to be decent at it, but I did it. And I loved it.
In case you're wondering, I am exactly the same. I did it. I was never good at it. Doesn't matter what it was. Like, I did it. I showed up. Cool. Not great. Oh, no. Well, I've already been outed, so, what else am I supposed to say? Yeah, right, 12-step program for recovering Lions fans. The problem is that the 12-step program you go through it every year because it's just the same cycle, right? No hope, some hope. This is our year. Losing hope, no hope. I realize that was 5 steps, but you can fill it in as you go. But that's how it is. That's the life cycle of a Lions fan. So currently, I am at the some hope phase. Stay tuned. I'll be losing hope in about 4 months.
I am not a huge NFL fan just in general, but I like football. Like, I love watching it. My dad grew up in Colorado, so I am by default a Broncos fan, but I love Patrick Mahomes, so I can get behind the Chiefs. I saw a hand over this way. Yes.
Ooh. I mean, am I music? This sort of reminds me of like the athletic ability versus coaching thing. You know, like, am I musically inclined? Yeah, I like music. Not much of a player though.
He is a singer though. He was in college choir,
singing,
so at MLC, so he is a very good singer.
But that's it.
Yeah.
I can't. One thing, like, no, I plunk it out. That's the best I can do. I'm not a pianist.
I can play piano as long as no one is watching me. Or I can play it for the kids because I know they won't judge me as much, maybe. Or if they do, they don't tell me at least. But in front of adults, I get stage fright and my hands shake too badly. So I would need a lot of practice in front of adults and a lot of forgiveness to be able to play in church.
Oh boy, where have we been so far? Ooh.
We've been really bad at that so far.
We're doing okay. We're doing okay.
We've been here quite a bit. We did try Burnt Ends. That's the only barbecue place we've gotten to so far.
We're doing a really bad job with the barbecue. Sorry, taking a long time to get involved with the barbecue. But there's so much. Yeah, it's overwhelming. But it's silly because we were so excited to come to Kansas City because, I mean, Texas girl. We left the and her family moved away. We left the barbecue behind. We haven't had good barbecue in years. So we're like, oh, Kansas City, thank goodness, finally, real barbecue again. And of course, now we finally get here and we've had it once. Yeah, great job on our part.
Can I say coffee place? I've tried a couple of those.
Is that legitimate?
They get me through the day. We really liked Black Dog because of their bakery.
Yeah.
That was fantastic.
That's
but
really
we've
nice.
tried, well, Scooters. They're good for a quick cup. But then we've tried Brouhaha. Where else have we gone? Oh, Pilgrim. We really like Pilgrim.
Pilgrim's the one.
So coffee places we've tried a lot of because it's what we get on our way to church in the morning. Restaurants, we've been pretty bad at so far. Sorry. We'll get on it. We'll let you know in a couple months.
We got to build our portfolio a little bit first, you know, yeah, and then we'll see.
We've heard Jack Stack, right?
Jack Stack's right down the street. Yeah, okay.
It's on our list. Those are both on our list of places to go.
Yeah, we have this list already made because so many people were so generous and gave us more gift cards than we could possibly use in a year, maybe. We'll be swimming in barbecue sauce for the foreseeable future at this rate. But there's a whole bunch of them though. Apparently, there's a lot of favorite barbecue joints around. We just haven't made it to them yet. That's the only problem. We just got to go use them. We got this great incentive to go do it.
We lived in a smaller town outside of Milwaukee, so we didn't have to make reservations on a Friday night. And so that has ruined our plan a couple of times now, because we keep forgetting if we try to go out at 6 o'clock on a Friday night, you're waiting an hour. So it will take an adjustment for that too.
Yeah. We just got to be smarter about it. I think that's kind of the summary there. Just be smarter about it. We'll come around. Uh-oh. Has he done this before? Does he? Yeah. Does he know what he's? They said he graduated, but I mean, did they mean like? Is he getting his GED? Yeah.
So whenever someone brings that up, I have to tell this really embarrassing story
Oh, no, wait, which one?
about my first call.
Oh, that one. Okay.
We had graduated from MLC, and I was working in my classroom at my first call, and he was there helping me because when he was just a student, he would come and help me in my room. And the custodian came in and looked at me and said, "Is that your son?" So as long as none of you do that, we'll be okay. Brother and sister, we got when we went to Europe for a while,
That's
and we got brother and sister there. That I can live with. Mother and son, not so much.
That's right out. That one's off the table. Yeah, I remember the first question that I got from the congregation that I vicared at, and I'll never forget, was they even picked this up. I didn't go to meet them in person, mind you. This was over a really poorly connected Zoom call. So I'm sure all they could see of me was like about 4 pixels. And yet somehow, the first question they asked me was, "Hey, Vicar, have you ever shaved before?" Yes. Doesn't happen often, but it still happens, okay? Try not to get defensive about it, but you know, yeah. It's been interesting.
It's a normal question.
Yep.
We're used to it.
Totally normal, totally normal. I get carded everywhere. It's okay. Totally natural.
And then I get carded because he gets carded. Otherwise, if I go by
Then I get
myself,
very
I don't
trouble.
get carded. I don't know what that says about me, but see, they don't get that from me because I know it's just a pity card. Oh, we carded him, so we have. I was a waitress. I've done that before. It's a pity card.
We know the rules, yeah. I know what you're doing. Let's see, follow-ups. Yeah? I did not know that, but now I know that. Oh, fantastic, yeah. That's that's the only way to make it, that's the only way I make it through a season. You gotta have that support structure in place. It's so important for so many reasons. Or at least have Packer fans around that you can complain to. One or the other. Either way works out just fine. We get by. Oh. No, I'm going to settle for a playoff game sometime in my life. A playoff win, sorry, I better make that clear. A playoff win sometime in my lifetime. That's my goal. Yeah.
I'm 61. There's been one of those.
See, there you go, right? See, yeah, that's why the bar is so low. Yep, exactly. Follow-up question.
I think you guys know me, but I'm John, by the way.
Hi, John.
Sarah, how's your room come together? And second question, is there anything like on your wish list, like, man, I really wish I had this? Because this would be a perfect time to ask.
It's coming along. I got a couple more bookshelves if anyone's been down there. I really like books, and I really like helping kids figure out that they don't have to hate books. So I have 6 bookshelves down there full of books.
I've actually lost count.
So that's all put together now. There were leaning piles of books for a while in there. It's coming along, though. There's posters up on the wall. It's for the most part together. For a wish list, I don't really have a ton right now. Just like I have a little reading area I would like to make more comfortable, so some comfy seating eventually, and some like flex learning spaces, like little lap trays that they can sit on the floor, because you'd be surprised how much kids like to sit on the floor and work on their work instead of in their desk. But nothing huge. So this will be my 5th year teaching. All 5 years have been in the middle school grades. So my first call was to Trinity in Waukesha, which is right outside of Milwaukee. It's just west of Milwaukee. And my first year, I taught 5th through 8th grade music and technology, which, like I said, I can play the piano, but it was a learning experience. It was a lot of fun. And then my second year, they changed it a little bit, and I taught music and technology for 5th through 8th grade, but then I also was 5th grade math and all of their core subjects. And then when we went out to Vicar year, I taught at Westside Christian in Middleton, which is just outside of Madison. And I taught 5th through 8th grade science, social studies, religion, and Spanish. Don't get your hopes up on the Spanish. That was a first-time thing. We made it. And then when we moved back to the Milwaukee area, I taught at another Trinity up in West Bend, which is actually a level with Mequon, so it was pretty close to the SEM. And I taught 7th and 8th grade everything except for literature, and then I taught 5th and 6th grade literature. So 4 years so far, all of them have been in the middle grades, and I love those grades. The number of times I've had people, "Oh, I'm so sorry you teach middle school." I'm like, don't be. They're a great group.
There's a fun
I'll start
question.
that one.
She's going to take longer than me.
Yes. Actually, if you go into the nice little blue Wells history book, my family is in it. My mom is a Westendorf, so we go way back in the synod. My grandpa was a pastor. His dad was a pastor. None of my grandpa's daughters, so none of my aunts or my mom were called workers or went to MLC. My mom actually is now. But then there's me. So we have a very long history in the Wells.
And I don't. Yeah, my family goes back a long way in Michigan. A lot of Michigan history there. But no called workers actually, as far as we know, except for, and I was only beat to the ministry by my first cousin, who happens to be a fair bit older than me. He's actually a pastor right now in Milwaukee, actually, at Mount Lebanon there. But he's been in ministry for 5 years now, so he's been at it for a little bit longer than me. But other than him and me, it's just the two of us, the only called workers in the family. Otherwise, everyone's been an engineer. Yeah, family of engineers. That's our thing. That's what we do, except for me, because I was terrible at math. That's an interesting question. I can't say that it was any one person, and I think this is kind of how it goes for a lot of guys. It's so hard to point to any one person, where you're like, this is the one individual who got me into ministry. I had a lot of great examples though growing up of awesome pastors who kind of just showed me the way. And got me thinking about it, got me wondering if that was the thing. Lots of encouragement from odd people along the way. Sometimes complete strangers who I would meet while I was at Michigan Lutheran Seminary or at MLC, who would just encourage me and say, "Yeah, that sounds good for you. You seem like you could make it as a pastor." And that kind of kept me going. My big turning point was actually I didn't enroll at MLC until, I'm not kidding, almost literally the last minute. I almost missed the cutoff day because I was still so unsure about whether or not I wanted to go there. I was deciding whether or not I was going to go to MLC and study to be a pastor, or I was going to go to University of Michigan and study law. I had no idea which I was going to do. So I ended up, I was lucky enough, my parents used to live out on the East Coast, and their pastor out there, Sam Clemens, not the famous one from around here, different Sam Clemens, but apparently related, as I found out. I just learned that a little while ago. So Pastor Clemens actually had been a lawyer for a number of years, and then switched and became a pastor later on in his life, a second career guy. So I was like, oh, this is exactly the guy I need to talk to. So I called him up a couple of times. He was over in New York State. I was over in Michigan at the time, and we had a couple of long-distance conversations over a few days and just chatted back and forth about, well, what are the pros? What are the cons? What is it that you actually want to accomplish in your life was the big question that he asked me. And I said, well, I want to do something meaningful. I want to help people. He says, well, okay, that was what was motivating me too. So here's my advice. Just cut out the middleman. I spent a whole bunch of years practicing law, and it was great, and I wouldn't trade it for anything, and I know I help people, but the ministry is a little bit different. And if you're on the fence at all, just give that a try first. And if it's not for you, that's fine. Transfer out. Go be a lawyer then, and good for you. But give the ministry a try first. I said, all right. So he convinced me. He pushed me over the edge. So I enrolled at MLC that spring. Haven't turned back since. So I feel like it worked out. I feel like it worked out fairly well. I was happy to have met him, or at least talked to him. I haven't actually seen him yet. I have no idea what he looks like. I've only heard his voice over the phone a few times. Never met the man. So yeah, that's how I got here. Ooh.
I think we agreed. So we went to 6 different countries in 5 weeks.
Yep.
Maybe 7. I think we agreed that Edinburgh, Scotland. More coffee. Edinburgh, Scotland was our favorite. We actually probably, if we had the chance or the choice, we probably would have just stayed and lived there. Like, it was beautiful, and the people were so friendly, and the food was amazing, and there was a lot to do. We went to Vienna, Austria, but we were only there for 2 days, and I think that's the place that if we go back, we would like to spend more time there. We felt like we didn't get to experience that city very much. We walked around beautiful buildings, but there's like monasteries there, and if you like the sound of music, it's a great place to like start your little Sound of Music tour. But one of my favorite things, so my favorite author is Jane Austen, and my favorite book is Pride and Prejudice. And I really wanted to go out into the countryside, but when I was looking at tours, because one thing we learned is you do not rent a car and drive. You don't. You ask someone to drive you, or you stay in a city where there's public transit. But so we knew we wouldn't be able to get a car. And when I was looking at tours, they were really expensive, so I was like, it's fine. We'll go do other stuff. And we were planning on going to like a weapons museum, something that he wanted to go do. And then he said, nope, we got to go to the train. And we were going to go to Bath, which there's a museum out there for Jane Austen, which would have been a lot of fun. We never made it that far because we got to a little town called Basingstokes, and he said, we got to get off. And I was like freaking out. I'm not one for surprises. I don't like them. And I like to plan, and I was like, no, we've got to stay on. We were switching trains, and I was like, we got to go that way to get to Bath. And he was like, no, we got to go this way. And I was freaking out. He surprised me with a tour, and we did a tour of Jane Austen's home church, and we went to the museum out there, and we got to see a statue that they were putting in that was hadn't actually been. We were with the guy who was helping plan it, so it wasn't in yet, but he was telling us about the statue, and we got to see where her house was. It's not there anymore. So he surprised me with a trip out into the countryside to see Jane Austen's country, and that was probably my favorite thing that we did. It was a lot of fun.
You know, it was good when I even enjoyed it, and I know I know next to nothing about Jane Austen, and I thought it was fascinating.
Since then, he's read Pride and Prejudice.
I've come around. But there's just always something very exciting about being with someone who is very knowledgeable, enthusiastic, and invested in a subject. And this tour guide was all of those things in spades. I mean, he knew everything about everything. He could probably quote chapter and verse any part of any of Jane Austen's works if you asked him, which was a little intimidating at first, but
Oh, I loved it.
it was great.
I loved it.
It was great.
And that was also where we went to the most like British pub you could
Oh my
possibly
goodness.
think of out in the countryside, and it was really good. But it was one of those things where you're like, if you're not with someone who is a local, you probably get looked at funny
We still did.
because it's just local people. But it was the cutest little pub.
I was a big fan of Pompeii myself. Neat
Oh, yeah.
place. Yeah. It's like, I think of all the places we went to, we're both kind of history nerds. She's a history major, so she's a very committed history nerd. I'm a more casual history nerd. Unless you count Bible history, I suppose, then I'm very committed. But Pompeii was really fun because they've excavated a lot of it, and I think more than any place I've ever been, it was really like stepping back in time. So much of it is just so well preserved. You can walk the streets, and they're a little rough. You know, they got a few more potholes than they do around here. I'll grant you that. But it was you could easily imagine people still using them even today. It was really fun. Learned a lot. Roasted alive too. It was very hot at the time. I remember. Oh my goodness, even hotter than it is here now, if you can imagine. But totally worth it. Absolutely worth it. I loved it.
Well, and it was just cool to see. So, with the ash, everything was preserved very well. And so, actually, if I have any students in here, at some point when we get to Pompeii and world history, I will pull out those pictures because they have casts of like the people that died, which I know sounds very like macabre and just terrifying, but it was actually really cool to see detail in their expressions, and they had like bread that was preserved in the ovens when when the ash fell. So like just a piece of history that you don't normally get to see because it rots, it goes away, and it didn't for Pompeii. So I was in a history lover's dream world. It was great.
She's tipped her hand. Now you know the real reason we took the trip. It wasn't for fun. It wasn't for enjoyment. Nope. It was so I could take pictures that she could use in her classes later. That's what it's all about. Oh, goodness.
Okay. I'm going to sound like a really bad American. Washington, D.C. I've never
that's right.
been yet.
Yeah.
And my entire family, well, my mom, my dad, and my brother have all gone. But I haven't yet. And so that's one that I would like to get to sooner rather than later. But then not in the U.S. I would like to go to Auschwitz, actually. I would like to go over and see some of the concentration camps. We didn't get a chance to do that, and I think that would just be a very cool and sobering experience. We made it to the Jewish Memorial in Berlin, and that was really an amazing memorial. I would recommend going to see it, but I would like to go see some of the more World War II history over in Europe.
Yeah, we definitely didn't get a chance to do a lot of the World War II history stuff, which was a little unfortunate. Yeah, I was kind of spoiled as a kid in one way at least. My family always took 2-week camping vacations. Of course, we camped, right? But we would take trips. And I've been all over the country that way. We'd travel over to the East Coast, to the West Coast, go down south. So I've actually already been to Washington D.C. twice. Which always makes me forget that she hasn't been there yet. So we'll go there eventually, and then maybe I'll play tour guide for the first time. That'll be interesting. Outside of the U.S., I've always wanted to. Ever since I saw a National Geographic special on it, which is I think almost everyone I've talked to is like, oh yeah, I saw this, Anyone who loves to travel later on in life, I swear almost everyone has been inspired by National Geographic at some point. I think it's just like, it's the standard thing you do. But I saw a National Geographic special on the Okavango River Delta in South Africa. Of all places. I mean, I don't know why. I just saw it. I thought it looked gorgeous. I was like, I need to be there. And ever since I was a little kid, I've been trying to get there. So someday I might just make it there. But that's my big out of the country trip that I'm hoping for someday. But I'll settle for anything. I just love exploring. It's fun.
I will say we were good Lutherans when we were over in Europe, and we did go to Wittenberg. So that was checked off our list.
Yes, yeah. You could tell they were enthusiastic because as soon as we got off of the train, they had set up what must have been like a 3-story tall facsimile of the Bible, Luther's Bible. It was just sitting out by the train station. You could see it from like half a mile away.
We went right before the 500th, so they were getting ready for all of that. So there was a lot of...
They were ready.
Yeah, there was a lot of
You got the
stuff.
giant Bible. There's nothing else you need. Oh, man. That was very nice. I liked doing that a lot. It was cool to see the places that Luther lived in, worked in, visited. Just really get a handle on some of the things that I had read about. You only read about some things, but to actually be there changes it. It changes it. Makes it a lot more real, which was fun. Became a big fan of Luther history at that point. That was nice. There must be some burning questions out there. There we go. All right. At least say something. Fill the void. Okay. Most excited about. Wow. I think what got me really excited. I mean, it was Call Day is exciting. No matter how you spin it, no matter how you slice it, it's always exciting. But I think what really got me going on that day was when I sat down with our district president, and he showed me this piece of paper, and on this piece of paper it was a tabulation of duties. And it was just, here's what Pastor Silo is expecting to be doing, and here's what we're expecting you're going to be doing while you're there. And I'm reading down this list of all the things that they're hoping that I would be doing, and I'm just kind of smiling and nodding like, yeah, okay. Yeah, and I keep going, and I'm smiling and nodding a little more like, okay, yeah, this sounds pretty good. And I think by the time I got to the end of the list, and he told me flat out, he's like, What I think they're looking for is they want someone to be a people pastor. That's what he said. They want someone to be a people pastor. That's what really brought it home. I was like, that is exactly what I want to be doing. That is precisely what I've been hoping for this entire time. I want to be a people pastor. I'm not. She'll back me up on this. I am not the most organized, the most orderly. I'm not the administrative kind of guy who's going to be sitting down, getting the nuts and bolts together, making sure everything runs smoothly, right? But if you want me to preach, to teach, to shake hands, say hi to people, I'm all about that. I will do that all day long and twice on Sunday. So the fact that that's exactly what you've got me here to do has me very excited in the biggest way.
You do it twice on Sunday.
And I do it twice on Sunday. I know, exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's like they knew.
I'm just excited to teach. I was
Born to teach.
so exact opposite of him, as you've noticed with so many things. I'm very organized. I like to know where things are going. And the fact that on call day, I don't know if I'm getting a call is nerve-wracking. I was excited. I was beyond excited for his call, but then after you hear his call, the wife waits. And it's just a waiting game at that point of, am I even going to teach in a WELS school next year, or am I going to have to start looking for public school, which I wouldn't mind teaching in public school, but I love teaching religion. I really want to teach in a WELS school. And so we went down to meet with Pastor Hirsch after the call meeting, and he handed Seth his call paper, and then he looked at me and said, "You wanted to teach, right?" And handed me my call right away. And right then I knew, like, this was such a God thing. Like, I didn't have to wait. So many other wives I knew, we have a really good friend. She knew there were some calls open in the area, but she still had to wait a couple of weeks to hear if she would be getting one, which one she would be getting. The fact that I knew that day was very rare and very much what I needed to fully get behind his call too, of just being completely excited. I was fully behind it anyway, but just to be over the moon about it because I knew also that I was going to be teaching. I was just so excited. And then it was in the middle school, and that made me even more excited because I love middle schoolers. They're so much fun.
There's nothing quite like feeling like you're exactly the right puzzle piece dropping into place. That's really what it felt like, kind of, especially in that moment. I know I definitely felt it. It was just click. Here we are, exactly where God means for us to be. It's fantastic. It was great. You'll love to see it happen.
So we thought we would end up probably in the in Wisconsin, just because
Statistically speaking,
everyone ends up in Wisconsin. Actually, I think we were one of, and I don't even think that was an exaggeration this year. I think like maybe
Still-
5 or 6 guys ended up outside of Wisconsin. We had put in for the overseas calls, so we were waiting to hear about those. But we knew before call day that we already knew who was getting them, so we knew we weren't getting those. But as for like expecting where to go, I personally, because people have asked me that every year I've gotten a call, and I just try not to. I don't want to be disappointed wherever I end up. I just want to love it, and so I really try not to think about where would I really like to be. If I'm being honest, I'm glad that I'm somewhere warmer.
Well, we got that.
I'm glad I'm getting closer to, Texas temperatures instead of the -60 for a couple of weeks temperatures. I like Wisconsin. I just don't like it for like 5 months of the year.
Wisconsin half the time. Yeah, that's kind of the long and short of it. Yeah, that was what it was all about for us. I think was just trying not to predict the future at all. Right? We had no idea what it was going to bring. So yeah, just focusing on being happy with wherever God decided to place us was always the thing in mind. And wow, did He come through! It's just no question, no hesitation, knowing exactly where He wanted us to be is just a lot of comfort and a lot of excitement comes out of that. And I think it's great. Ooh. I drove through once. Does that count?
I've driven through twice.
Ooh.
So no,
Yeah.
we hadn't been here before, which was really cool to get a call here because it's fun to go somewhere where you don't know anything and you get to experience it all for the first time.
Yeah.
We like breweries. We lived in Milwaukee. That's like the thing you do. You go see all the breweries, and then we like to get some sort of cup with their logo on it to say, oh, we've been to this brewery. So we have quite a few from Milwaukee. But we've done a couple of breweries so far. We wanted to get down to the farmer's market, but we don't wake up early on Saturdays. So we'll get there.
That's bound to happen, yeah. Already been to a Royals game.
Yes,
So
we went
thank
last
you
night.
to the cooks for that. And it was a lot of fun. That was cool. Did not know that the stadium and Arrowhead were right next to each other, but I know that now. So one of these days, yeah, get to a Chiefs game. I hear lots of good things about it. I can't say that I love the team there. Maybe I will. Maybe I will eventually, though. I can come around. Patrick Mahomes seems like a pretty cool dude, but I hear lots of great things about seeing games at that stadium. So that would be fun to do as well. I would really like that.
I mean, you know I'm a history person, so I would like to do the World War I Museum.
Yeah.
When we lived in Louisiana, the National World War II Museum is down there, so I've seen that, and I was young when I saw it, and I still remember it, so it's a really good museum. I would like to, I know there's like a traveling exhibit at Union Station right now on the Holocaust. I would like to go see that before it leaves. We like the zoo, so we will probably go to the zoo. We'll probably get passes to the zoo and go often.
We did that when we were in Milwaukee, which was always fun because you could just drop by the zoo anytime you wanted and just go for a walk. It was great. I noticed though your zoo is a little bit bigger. Yeah, just a touch.
And then that just means that we pick which animals we're going to see that day.
Yeah,
Okay.
the comfy shoes, right? Super important.
So the sandals
learned
that I
that.
always wear that he tells me you should stop wearing when we walk, I shouldn't wear those. No, okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
we'll learn eventually.
What was it called again? Okay.
Steamboat Arabia. Okay.
My
I'll remember
parents are
that.
visiting in a couple weeks for my installation, and they also like history stuff, so we might have to take them down there.
That might be it.
Yes.
Ooh. What are our what's my passion project, I guess, right? Yeah, what's that one thing that I know I've really got to make? I guess for me I think I've got two. One of them being more a historical thing, and one of them being more of a theological thing. Over my vicar year, I made a lot of headway actually into doing a study on Revelation, of all things. My goal was and still is to try to make Revelation less scary than it is. I know in my experience, a lot of people they know it's there. It's that book at the end of the Bible, but nobody really dives into it very much because it's tough, right? There's all crazy imagery, numbers. What does it mean? A lot of questions about it. My goal is to try to simplify it and make it more approachable. That's kind of always been my goal. So I tried at least to do it while I was there. I don't know how well I did, but my goal is kind of to maybe revisit that and improve it again. So I don't know, maybe somewhere down the line, hopefully, when I've maybe actually done a better job of doing it, I'll come back to that. See if we can walk through Revelation a little bit together, get to know it better. That's my big one. My other project is going to be revisiting my senior thesis. Definitely, I want to do more research into that. I did a historical study of the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic, and learned as much as I could about it. And it was fascinating stuff, really cool to learn about. Because what I did was I learned about how I wanted to focus on how Christian people. Didn't really care what background was, what denomination they were, just how Christian people reacted to the pandemic in 1918, and just to see what I could learn. What did they do? How did they react? What kind of lessons could I take away? And learn so much from the study, but I barely scratched the surface. There's a lot out there, and even though I was spending hours and hours doing research, I hardly got anywhere. So there's so much more to do with that. I'd love to go back maybe just a little bit at a time, and just, I don't know, keep learning more about it, because it gave me a lot of good lessons to take away that I've taken to heart since then, and I'd like to go back and look at it some more. That might have been more than you were hoping for.
I'm currently getting my master's in special education, so that'll be my big thing over the next few years is learning how to work with kids who think differently.
Oh, two at the same time. Nice. Ooh. Especially on campus.
Once we got married, we did a terrible job of staying involved in on campus.
Gosh, so
But
true.
before we did, the talent shows were a lot of fun. Just getting involved in like all of the homecoming week stuff we did. As freshmen, you get some like juniors, which we also were juniors that took in some freshmen, but they have you do stuff throughout the week, different dress up things, and to just like fully get into that. And we never participated in the talent show, but that was a lot of fun to watch. And then they have like different sporting things that you can do during that week. And there's usually I don't think that's during homecoming. Maybe it's during the winter one where the SEM guys go over and play a hockey game with the MLC guys, pasture track guys, and that's always a lot of fun to watch. They mess around with each other, and it's hilarious. Choir is a great thing to get involved in. It's an easy way to get to know people right away. And and I mean, as long as you like singing, but I really liked being in choir. We weren't in it for very long, but we were in it for a couple of years, and we enjoyed it. You did musicals.
Yeah, getting involved with the theater program is also a great way to get to know people, because they need all kinds. You need people on stage, you need people behind the scenes, right? But you become a pretty close-knit group, getting to know people that way, which is fun. Yeah, athletics are always a big thing. So many too, which I always appreciated. You gotta, I mean, almost whatever your interest is, you can get involved with somebody who has it, and it's really easy to do. So I definitely encourage doing that. Let's see. What
Seth's
else
a
would I
little
love?
bummed. He missed out by a couple of years. They just put in a disc golf course on campus.
Yeah, that's
and
been years in the making. Oh my goodness,
He missed it by just a little bit.
just barely missed it. But that's kind of my MO. The fun stuff gets put in after I leave, so I'm used to it by now.
I would also recommend an on-campus job. I'm not great at athletics, so I never would have done it in college, but I worked as the athletic trainer's assistant. So I was at all of the games, and I got to help with all of the injuries. So I got to like watch him set some bones sometimes. It was pretty fun. Probably not for the other people, but I enjoyed
Once you got past the
helping.
screaming, it was great.
I mean, it was football. It was going to happen.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of stuff to do on campus. MLC, so my dad went to CU. He went to a giant university, and when he dropped me off at MLC, he was astonished. He was not expecting how beautiful of a campus it would be. He was so impressed with at the time, President Zarling was the president of MLC, but he was out helping freshmen move all of their stuff into campus. And he fell in love with the campus, and he went to a giant university. So it's an amazing campus. And then I would recommend getting out into the town. There's a lot of fun stuff to do in New Ulm. There's a state park right next to it that you can go hiking in. This won't surprise you, but my favorite spot was the coffee shop downtown. It was awesome. But
Go there, Lola. This is fantastic.
yeah, Lola's is the best. I wish we could go back. But there's a lot of stuff to do on campus. It's a lot of fun, and if you I didn't know anyone. I knew absolutely no one going in. I was the only one going from my congregation down in the south, and I went to a public school, so I knew no one. And once I got there, I just had to be okay with, and I'm not like the most social person ever, but I had to be okay with being social, and I found my closest group of friends there. We're godparents to one of their kids, and you can find lifelong friends there. It's a great place to go.
Yeah, I'll second that. Absolutely.
It looks like it's time to be done.
We're at time. Sorry, friends.
So if you have other questions, oh yes,
One more?
real quick. I'm excited to go see it.
It's on the list.
I'm hoping it's as good as the World War II Museum, because if I remember it, and I went when I was like 8 or 9, like it was a really good museum. So I'm excited to go see it here. If you have any other questions, his email's in the bulletin.
Please direct all questions to me. Yeah, come find us. Come say hello. We're always happy to talk
Thank
with any
you.
of you. Yeah, get to know you a little better. Glad to take this opportunity. Yeah, thank you.